Welcome to the podcast playbook, where we amplify your voice, amplify your business, and amplify your impact. We are Amplify You. Let's go.
Hey, amplifiers, welcome back to the podcast playbook. And yeah, I'm here today because I want to talk about how you can design your podcast episodes so they're not just sharing just great ideas, which we hope they are, but they're also guiding your listeners towards your offers. So we're going to talk about the pitching versus positioning. And so that it feels more natural and that your conversations are more guiding your listeners to the logical next step. So, first off, let's talk about why alignment matters. All right. So, think about your podcast as more than just a content machine. People are listening because they have grown to know, like, and trust you. They connect with you and your perspective, and they trust the way that you see the world. Now, imagine this week after week. They're just listening, they're nodding along, they're learning from you, but they never hear how to get to the next step. What happens? You're just become free content for them. You're not a partner or a guide or a mentor, you're just a source for ideas. That's why alignment matters. Every episode needs to tie back to the transformation that you're delivering in your business. That way, when you talk about your offer, it doesn't feel like a sales detour. It feels like the natural continuation, the next step of the conversation that you've already been having with them. So the key point in all this, you're not selling, but aligning. And when you align, your audience sees your offer as a natural next step, not a surprise sale pitch. All right. So let's dig into that positioning versus pitching. So here's where the mind shift change needs to happen. Too many times we just kind of throw in our pitch, but again, we need to talk about what that is. Pitching interrupts. It's like that jarring ad break in the middle of the podcast episode that really doesn't have anything to do with what you're talking about. And it just kind of pulls them out of the flow. It's just not congruent with your overall message at that point. But positioning, on the other hand, integrates. It's when you tell stories, share examples, or walk through your frameworks that naturally highlight your solutions. You don't have to say, go buy my program. Instead, you might say, I had a client who was on the verge of burnout. And once we implemented this framework, she was able to scale her business and actually take weekends off. That's positioning. You're not selling, you're showing. You're demonstrating that your framework or solution works in the real world. And that builds way more credibility than any hard pitch ever could. So let's talk about designing your episodes so that they lead somewhere. So here's the practical key. Reverse engineer your topics. Most podcasters brainstorm random ideas or chase trends. When they try to tack on an offer at the end, it often feels forced. Instead, start with your core offer. What transformations do you deliver through your program? And work backwards to build your content calendar. And so, for example, if you're a business coach for entrepreneurs scaling without burnout, don't do episodes on 10 productivity hacks. Instead, focus on themes like how to lead without burning out. Time freedom isn't lazy, it's leadership. The art is scaling without sacrifice. Each one addresses the pain your audience feels and tees up your program as the answer. All right, let's look at another example. You're a health coach. If your offer is about sustainable weight loss, your episode shouldn't be random question and answers. Instead, break it down to why dieting backfires, how stress keeps the weight on, one shift that makes healthy living stick. These topics make your program the natural next step. When you design episodes this way, your offer isn't an add-on, it's the logical conclusion to the conversation. Part 4, the power of storytelling. We've talked about this before. Storytelling is one of the best ways to make a connection. So here's the truth. Facts inform, but stories persuade. Listeners can Google stats and how-tos all day long. What they can't Google is your lived experience or your client's journey. That's what makes your podcast magnetic. Every time you share a story, whether it's a client breakthrough, a mistake you made, or even a personal lesson learned, you're humanizing your expertise. You're turning abstract ideas into real, relatable moments. So that's not Sally. It's just proof. It's evidence that your framework works. So let's talk about the next steps. Not everyone is going to jump straight into your big ticket program after listening once. We all know that. That's not normal for people to do. You might have inspired them, but usually they want the little things first. They still need to build that trust with you. That's why you need your micro offers, little stepping stones that build momentum towards the bigger decision. Think checklists, cheat sheets, guides, little mini workshops, or even a short challenge for them. These aren't throwaway freebies. Done right, they will deepen the relationship that you are developing with them. They give listeners a taste of your process, help them get a small win, and show them the value of working with you. Each yes they say to a micro offer makes them more likely to say the big yes later. It's like dating. You're not going to propose on the first coffee date. You create smaller moments of trust that lead naturally into a bigger commitment. So let's talk about your guests. So we want to use our guests strategically. Too many podcasters use their guests just to fill airtime. You're not sure about a topic that you even want to do or don't want to do a solo show. It's easy to just get guests in who might fill in your concept of what you're talking about. But that can backfire on you, especially if the guest message has nothing to do with your core focus. Instead, bring in guests who expands your world, your ecosystem. Their expertise should connect to your offer, even if it's from a different angle. So, for example, if your coaching program is about scaling a business sustainably, you could bring in a guest who specializes in delegation or mindset or building company culture. The guests will enrich the conversation, but you guide it in a way that ties back to your framework. So the goal of this, don't compete with your guests, obviously, but collaborate. Build a conversation where their ideas and your offer complement each other. So here's the balancing act between subtlety and clarity. If you're too subtle, people will never realize you actually have an offer. If you're too direct, they tune out because it feels like a pitch. The sweet spot is that clarity. For example, you can say, if you're resonating with this and want to go deeper, I've got a program that helps entrepreneurs build sustainable businesses. That's exactly what we cover inside. It's not pushy, it's honest. And listeners respect honesty when it comes from a place of service. All right. So let's talk about the repurposing. And repurposing isn't just filling in using past stuff. It's all about a sense of reinforcement. Um, so your episodes shouldn't live and die in your RSS feed. Thought leaders know how to multiply the impact of one conversation. So, like we mentioned in previous episodes, take that episode, turn it into a blog post, a LinkedIn post, an email, some short reels, a carousel. You're not recycling, you're reinforcing. Each time you put this message out there again, you're putting it back in front of your audience, but in a different way. And here's why it matters. Familiarity builds trust. Trust speeds up decisions. So the more often that they see them, the more often they are hearing your aligned message, and the more confident that they will be in taking the next step with you. So let's talk about the pitfalls that undermine authority. So these are some common mistakes that people do that can just sabotage your episode, all the work that you're trying to do. So first off is overloading your episode with too many calls to action. If you worked with us before, you'll know that we usually say one main call to action per episode. Whether it is at the very end of your episode, it's an offer that you have, it is to just visit your website in your outro. Just keep it simple and straightforward. Okay. Don't put too many in. um, don't make every single conversation sound like a pitch. All right. So that's just going to break the trust of those that you are listening. Like I said earlier, we want to position you so that your episodes are just the natural next step. It's not going to be a jarring pitch into it. Finally, don't create content that has nothing to do with your offers. Sure, you might inspire your audience, but it leaves them directionless. They're not sure where they're supposed to go with that. All right. So let's wrap this up. At the end of the day, podcasting isn't just about creating content, but creating that aligned content. Your offers aren't interruptions. They're the natural continuation of the journey your audience is already on with you. So here's my challenge for you. What's one small way that you can weave your offer into your next episode? And if you want to learn more about this topic, you can head on over to amplifyu.com and read the blog post, as well as there is a episode to offer roadmap that will highlight this as a downloadable for yourself. So until next time, happy podcasting.
Oh, you are still here. I'm honored. Thank you. If you're ready to take the next step, go grab the podcast playbook. It's free, amplifyu.com. Every step you need is there. And if we can help, don't be afraid to reach out. Happy podding.